What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Dillon Reads Comics. Today we are reviewing Garth Ennis's Preacher Omnibus Volume 1. This was such a great read to me. Such a great read. Anyway, so before I go into what I'm going to give it a rating, we're going to talk about the plot of it a little bit, crack open the book. But first and foremost, let's talk about it. Yes, this is Omnibus Volume 1 of 2. So there is two omnibuses. It's written by Garth Ennis. And there we go. Written by Garth Ennis and artist by Steve Dillon. I'm pretty sure he passed away already. So, rest in peace to him. Also, Steve Poa and Carlos Esqueda. And the colorists are by Matt Hollingsworth, Pamela Rambo, James Sinclair, and collection cover artist Clem Robbins. I'm sorry, the letter is Clem Robbins, and the collection cover artist is Glenn Fabi. This was an amazing book. And I'm sorry, there's quite a few of them there, but the cover art are amazing. It is published by DC Black Label. I still don't know the difference between DC Black Label, DC Vertigo, or anything like that. It just does say DC Black Label on it. It says DC Black Label right here, but it doesn't say DC Black Label right here. It just says DC. I kind of want to say, but I'm not too sure about this, so don't take me for it. I kind of want to say that Preacher and the Boys are in the same universe because Cassidy, one of the characters in here, makes a cameo in The Boys. So, anyway, this has 1,080 pages. It collects issues 1 through 33. It collects The Saint of Killers 1 through 4, and the one-shot called Cassidy, Blood and Whiskey. There's also a biography and letters about Preacher and things like that. And it does have beautiful sewn binding. And just so we can get it out the way, let's take off the dust jacket. Oh, sorry about that. There we go. So the dust jacket, front, spine, back. The inside doesn't have anything on this side. It's white right here. And then there's like a little bio of Steve Dillon and Garth Ennis right there. I'm going to set this to the side, actually, because we're not going to use it anymore. So, there we go. And then, let's look at the hardcover of Preacher. This is actually the 25th anniversary omnibus. And what's weird, it's the 25th, but I think this has been out for almost 30 years, actually, because I think it started in 1995. So it's been out for 30 years. But anyway, here's the back or the spine. Ennis, Dillon, Preacher. And then here's the back of it. Nice picture of the main character. So let's go ahead and crack this open and talk about the kind of the plot of it, the story arcs a little bit, and kind of go from there. Alrighty, guys, so let's crack this open. Just an FYI, so you guys know, this is the third time I'm doing this, because the first time it was way too long, and the second time I feel like I did too much spoilers. Also, an FYI, if you guys hear thunder in the background, or noise in the background, it's thunder, it's pouring over here. So yeah, it's out there. Anyway, so let's crack open this book. So you got the end page right here. You got the title or the title page. You got the credits. I'll leave that there so you guys can check it out. The table of contents. You got Preachers 1 through 18. It's actually Preachers 1 through 33, but you got 1 through, I believe it's 26, and then it stops. And you got Preacher Special Presents, or Preacher Special Saints of Killers 1 through 4. And then Preacher Special Cassidy, Blood and Whiskey. And then it picks up after that, Preacher issues 27 through 33. and then you got Gone to Texas Letters to Preacher. I'm not too sure what that was about. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't read it. And then you got some script stuff, pinup sketches, and then the biography. This is weird though, because Brian K. Vaughan, I don't know what he had to do with this book. I read his work before. I've done a review on it of one of his books, but I don't know what he had to do with this. Because as you guys saw in the credits, he wasn't even like mentioned. So I don't know if he did works on this or he just talked about it. So anyway, this is what I like about this. Every chapter / issue, it shows you the cover art, which is amazing. So what is the story of Preacher? It's kind of intricate in the sense that, how do I explain it? You get introduced to 3 characters: Jesse Custer, Tulip O'Hare, and Prunshaya Cassidy. He just goes by Cassidy, but you find out his first name. You get introduced to them. They're kind of sitting at a bar or a diner. They're talking about some events that happened, how they came to meet up at that diner, and so on. And then it gets to a point where Jesse is talking about, this guy is talking about he wants to go and look for God. So why does he want to go and look for God? Well, God left heaven. Just like that. God left heaven because, here it is right here. So in heaven, there was this archangel. He was kind of patrolling the border between heaven and, I guess you can say, hell. And he met up with the female demon, and they mated and had a child. That child's name is Genesis. When that child was born, they kind of imprisoned it, and eventually it escaped. And when it escaped, God fled heaven, like he left the throne, because he was scared of Genesis, because it's powerful. So ever since he left, the Sephron, I think that's what it's called, Safari. I don't know how to pronounce it. Archangels are kind of in charge of heaven. And when Genesis breaks out, one of these guys right here goes and, I guess you can say, wakes up a deadly guy. He's called the Saint of Heavens to go out and look for Genesis. Now, while all that is happening in the background, in the main story, here's the archangels I was telling you about. In the main story, they're talking about, Jesse, Cassidy, and Tulip are talking about how they met up and things like that. You get kind of introduced to who they are. Jesse Custer's a reverend. Tulip is kind of like not a hitman, a hit woman. An assassin for hire, I guess you can say. And then you kind of find out about Cassidy, because he gets shot in the head right here, and you're like, what the heck? And throughout this story arc, you actually eventually find out, they don't say it explicitly, but you find out he's a vampire. But in the story that they're talking about, you find out that, here's the Saint of Killers I was telling you about. This guy's a machine, a monster, can't be killed. His bullets stay true. They always shoot. His guns never. I mean, he's a saint. So Genesis comes to Earth, and he kind of goes into Jesse Custer. When he goes into Jesse Custer, he finds out that he has a special ability where he can tell people what to do. Now, when I say that, like, he can be talking to somebody in black, in the black font. When he really tells them what to do, the font turns red and his eyes turn red. And they actually listen to him. So the first story arc kind of explains all this. And on top of that, you kind of get like not a sense, but you kind of get introduced to the Duke, John Wayne. Why John Wayne, though? Well, when Jesse was growing up with his dad, he was a kid, they were big fans of the Duke. And so it's kind of like his imaginary friend, and or it's all in his mind. So I'll leave that part up to you, because I think it's an imaginary friend, but more than likely it's just in his mind. So then we get introduced to a whole bunch of characters that I don't want to say if they're important or not, but one of them that I do want to talk about is here's the consumption of Genesis. Here's the archangel and the demon. And here's what I was talking about. His eyes turn red when he tells him what to do, and you can see the lettering is red as well. And you get introduced to one character in here that does play an important part, aside from Saint of Killers. It's not Saint of, it's Saint O. Saint O Killers. And you get introduced to one more character here. The sheriff's son, Arseface. Now, obviously, the sheriff doesn't call him Arseface. Obviously, he himself doesn't call himself Arseface. It's that somebody calls him that, and it sticks with him. He comes in later on down the book of the, like later in the chapters. So he does play a huge role, later on. So that's the first story arc. You kind of get introduced to these characters. You get, you see that the Saint O Killers is after Jesse because Genesis isn't Jesse. You get introduced to Tulip. You get introduced to Cassidy. And that's about it. And you find out a little bit about them. And then we go on to the second story arc, which is kind of like a straight-on continuation, but I consider it a next story arc. Here it is right here. This next story arc, finally that Jesse knows that God is no longer at the throne, his next mission / quest in his mind is he wants to go and look for God and tell him, hey, you're responsible for these people. Why did you leave the throne? And that's his next mission. So he asks Cassidy, since Cassidy's been around for a while, do you know anybody that would know where to find God? Cassidy has a good friend, and they ask him. While that's happening, there's a serial killer going on in the city of New York. And 2 cops are after that serial killer. There's a big twist and turn as to who that serial killer is. There's a big twist and turn about Cassidy's friend, which I'm going to tell you guys right now. Man, I really want to say if I like him or not, but if I do say I like him, or if I don't say I like him, it'll give away. But, man, let's just say that guy is a guy. But, yeah, you get introduced to these characters. At the end, something happens to this guy. At the end, something happens to the cops that are on the team. Very, very different cops from each other. They're like a yin and a yang. And at the end of it, because throughout this whole time now, certain things have been happening, and Jesse is considered a fugitive, a wanted man. And at the end of this story arc, he is presumed dead by certain events. And that's all I want to give about this story arc. This story arc was actually very impressive to me in the sense that there's a lot of character building but overall with these 3 characters of Cassidy, of Jesse, and of Tulip, especially Tulip, I think. But yeah, so I'm gonna flip through this pretty quick because I don't want to give away too much of it. See, that's what I did with my last one. Why I need to re-record this, because I think I give away too much of it. So then we start a new story arc. Here we go, right here. This new story arc is kind of amazing because after they leave New York, they go back to Texas for a reason. I don't want to give away that reason why, but they go back to Texas for a reason because it starts out in Annville, a small little city, and they go back to that. And when they go back to that, they get captured / kidnapped by Jesse's sick and twisted family. His grandma, and I guess you can say, I don't know if they're cousins or not, but they're going back for a reason. And when they go back, Tulip tells Jesse how she became a gun for hire. And Jesse kind of confronts them. And when they leave that place, they get kidnapped by Jody and TC and brought back to the plantation, Angelville. This place is horrible. And you get introduced to the grandma, and she is a horrible person. And yeah, you find out. What I liked about this is you finally find out who Jesse's dad was, who his mom was, what happened to them, what happened to, during his childhood, and how he ended up where he ended up, why he left Tulip for 5 years. He explains everything. Certain events happen in this that I don't want to give too much more away. And God appears to Tulip and tells her, hey, you know what? I want you to tell Jesse to stop following me. This is his only warning I'm going to tell him. And I don't want to give what happens at the end, but yeah, that was a great story. It was a great story in the sense that you find out so much about Jesse and why he is the way he is, why he's a reverend, and all that. So that's why I really like that story arc. And then finally, after that story arc, we start a new one. This new story arc is kind of... In this story arc, you find out about a big organization called the Grail. In the Grail, oh, by the way, the Sandal Killers is still after Jesse. In the Grail, you find out that they are the ones responsible for keeping the lineage of Jesus Christ, his bloodline, alive. But the way they're doing it is nasty. It's horrible. Like, instead of having, like, just say Jesus and, got married and had kids, and the boy wanted to reproduce with another, or, have more kids. Instead of doing that and keeping that blood lineage, the way they went around it was Jesus had kids, a boy and a girl, and they made them kind of reproduce to keep the lineage pure. And I don't know, that was a little gross to me, but, whatever. And so you find that out. So you also find out that his name is Herstar, by the way. The guy with the eye, this guy, Herstar. He's after Jesse Custer because he knows that the organization or Grail, the organization, also wants Jesse Custer for a reason. And what that reason is, you find out in this one. This is kind of a big story arc in the sense that when they go back to Texas, they leave and they kind of go to San Francisco and they meet up with Cassidy. And they spend some time with Cassidy and there we go. They spend some time with Cassidy, and while they're there, Herstar and his men find the three group of Cassidy, Jesse, and Tulip. When they find them, they get taken, but only two of them get taken, Tulip and Cassidy. Why? Because Cassidy claims to be Jesse, because Grail doesn't know exactly what Jesse looks like. So he gets taken, they get kidnapped. Jesse actually saves Tulip, and now it's kind of, I guess you can say, Jesse's mission to go after his friend, because Cassidy saved Jesse, so now it's time for him to return the favor. And when he returns the favor, he goes after. I mean, like I said, you learn all about the Grail and everything like that. He saves Tulip, and now it's his time to go and save Cassidy, because with the stuff that they're doing to Cassidy is wrong. You find out why the Grail Allfather wants Jesse Custer, and then you eventually find out why Herstar wants Jesse Custer as well. And he, like I said, Jesse Custer goes after and saves Cassidy. He actually leaves Tulip behind, and she gets upset about it, which is kind of funny because he doesn't want her to get hurt, which makes sense. And I don't want to spoil what happens at the end of this story arc, but I will give you guys this. Jesse does eventually save Cassidy, and everybody else that was in the story, the ones that you really got to pay attention to, is still Herstar and Featherstone, which is this female right here. And this guy, let me put it this way, Jesse Custer can be a horrible person when he wants to. There was this other agent that works for the Grail, right? And because he didn't want to kill him, they ended up kind of like on the beach, and he made him count sand, like each individual sand. And he's like, you know what? You can't stop until you reach 3 million. And he eventually goes crazy with that. But yeah, I don't want to give too much more away of this story arc because it's an amazing story arc. Jesse gets to talk to Genesis, the thing that's inside him, its father. Eventually, the Santo Killers reaches up to Jesse, but he doesn't kill him. They come to an agreement about something. It's just so amazing. And like I said, you find out a lot. So then after that, we finally get introduced. So like I said, he does save them. We finally get introduced to the backstory of Cassidy. This is when you find out that his name is Prunchias. So he's obviously Irish. He was in the war, and him and his brother are in the war. And his brother hears something, and he eventually leaves. They desert their place, their position, and they go on the run. When they go on the run and take a small break, to relax, Cassidy gets bit, and there you go right there. And you find out how he becomes what he is. You find out how he ends up in New York, because all this Cassidy's telling Jesse this at the Empire State Building, Cassidy's favorite place. So he tells him the whole backstory about people he met, people growing up with, things like not really growing up with, but like people that he met and became close with, and how they eventually died because he's technically immortal. He's a vampire. And so I like that backstory because it tells so much about him. And then finally we get to the next story arc of the Sainto Killers. How he becomes what he is, what happens to him, what happens to his wife. I'm going to do this because what we're told at first is not what happens. What happens to his wife and his child, and how he really becomes the Sainto Killers, and how he really becomes vengeance, and why people are not really vengeance, but this horrible monster that people are afraid of. Because towards the end of this story arc, he does some horrific crap. Like, I was even like, what the heck? Like, oh my God. This book is really not for the faint of heart, because if you're against animal cruelty, animal killing, killing of children, of women, this has all of it. It's very blasphemous too, but all in all, I'll talk about that when I'm doing a rating. So anyway, so you find out about Sainto Killer and his backstory and how he becomes the Sainto Killers. And you meet, just quick, you meet the Angel of Death, and you meet the Devil, which is pretty cool. But I don't want to give too much more of that story arc away. This one shot was pretty cool about Cassidy. He met another vampire like himself, and it's a lot of character development on Cassidy's part, because here you kind of find out that he's not such a horrible person as he comes out to be. But I have heard some horrific things about him later on, which I haven't got to yet, so I can't speak about it. But I did like this little short one-off shot. But it was actually a long one, actually. It was cool that he met up with another vampire, and what happens to him and everything like that. So then we go back to the actual story of Preacher, and we meet up again with Her Star. And now Her Star's main mission is to get vengeance on Jesse Custer. And then again, we meet up with Jesse Custer. His girl Tulip is still upset with him, ties him up. She goes out. She's upset with him because Jesse didn't take her to rescue Cassidy. And so while she ties him up, she goes and meets up with a friend. They talk a lot. Before she goes back to Jesse, she meets up with Cassidy. When she meets up with Cassidy, things happen. He kind of tells her how he feels about her. Like he's in love with her and things like that. And she doesn't know how to take it, as you can see here. And why doesn't she know how to take it? Why can't she take it? Well, because she can't really tell Jesse that what Cassidy said, because Cassidy just got done telling Jesse that they're good friends. He's never had a friend like that before. Jesse's the kind of person that he doesn't make friends so easily. So she doesn't want to break that. She doesn't want to break the bond that they have. And she knows that if she tells Jesse what Cassidy said, it'll ruin their friendship. And that story arc gets a little bit more complicated. And I don't want to give too much more away, but I like that. The character development, how Cassidy starts feeling guilty for what happened. And it's great. Let me put it this way. I liked it because what would you do in the sense of you being Tulip? Would you tell Jesse or wouldn't you? That's what makes you think a lot. And that's what kind of got me so invested in this story arc. Like, damn, what would I do? Because I've been in this situation myself, not to go too much into my personal life. I've been in that personal situation where a female told me that she really liked me, she was in love with me, whatever, but she was dating somebody I knew, and like, what do I do, And it's hard. It's a hard thing to do, to navigate, and that's why I really like this story. And so yeah, I don't want to give too much more about this away. Like I said, I've given a little bit too much in my previous ones that I made, so I think I'm going to leave it right there. This is only the first omnibus, so I know a lot of things happen. You do get reintroduced back to who? Arseface. He comes back. And like I said, a lot of things happen in this next story arc. I don't want to give too much more away. So let's move on to the end. The end, you got Gone to Texas, Letters to Preacher. I don't know what this was. I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't read it because it was a lot. It's like 20-something pages. But then you got the sketches, the rough draft, things like that. What I really liked about this, you can see like the fixings that they did there. There's a little mark right there. There's a coffee stain cup right there. Ah, it was just so amazing. I like the stuff that they did. Some drops of coffee there. Fixing it right there. And then you get the pin-up gallery. The pin-up gallery. Not the cover gallery, just pin-up gallery. This one's, oof. Tulip step on me. Sorry, guys. She's just amazing, the kind of person she is. And then you get the biography. So that's kind of the story so far of Preacher. So let's go ahead and do the rating on it, and we'll go from there, guys. Alrighty, guys. So what is my rating for this book? I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. This book, it's a little blasphemous. If you're really religious and believe in God and things like that, this book is definitely not for you. It's very blasphemous when it comes to that. There's a lot of things that's said and done in this that you're just like I said, if you're religious, this book is not for you. But I didn't take this book myself as it being blasphemous and religious. I took it for the sense of it being a love story between Jesse Custer and Tulip. And that being said, and Jesse's friendship with Cassidy. That being said, I absolutely love this book. This book was top tier for me. One of my favorites so far. What am I going to give this omnibus so far? This one so far. Because I know I still got to read the other one. So I do have to give a rating for the overall story arc. But this one and this one alone, I'm giving this a 5. The art was freaking amazing. The dialogue was beautifully done. The backstories they give for each character was amazing. It kind of dragged on a little bit, but not too much. The characters you get introduced are awesome. It's just, it was such an amazing book. Like, I did not want to put it down. When I was reading the Sandman omnibus, once I got like 3/4 of the way into it, I kind of felt like I was already done with it. With this one, I didn't want it to finish, and I'm like already wanting to read the next one. So I absolutely love this book. I absolutely loved it. I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. I highly recommend it for people that want to read it, that can get over the blasphemy stuff and get over that part and just know that you're reading a book, not something that's real, not something that's being disrespectful, just certain points of view of people. Take it from me that if you look at the bigger picture of the book, it's more of a love story. And if you can look at it that way, this is an excellent book. So I highly recommend it. Once I get done reading the second book, I will give you guys my overall arc rating of it. Even though I give this a 5 out of 5, I'm actually going to get rid of this and the second omnibus. Why? Because I want to pick them up in the absolute format, which is 3 of them. Because I liked it that much. I want to get the bigger one so I can enjoy it so much more when I give it a reread. So that's my rating for this, guys. I hope you guys loved or liked the review. Hopefully I didn't give away too much plot of the details, and I hope you guys liked the review. If you guys did, please leave a like. Leave me a comment on if you guys think I give a little bit too much away. If you guys read this, if you guys liked it, if you guys didn't. Would you guys recommend me read next? After this, like I said, I'm reading Omnibus Volume 2, and then after that, I'm starting the Boys series. So be on the lookout for those. I hope you guys have been enjoying my content. If you guys have, please subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out, and it helps put my videos out there for other people to see. So I hope you guys can do that for me. All that being said, guys, I hope you guys take care, stay safe, and we'll see you guys on the next one.